please welcome Alex Lowe.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody. I have to follow on and say it really is a great honor to be in this fantastic venue and follow on from some absolutely amazing speakers. In fact, the last time I was in a room full of a lot of HR professionals, I was in big trouble. So I'm quite glad it's a different set of circumstances today, to say the least. I really want to talk through three key areas today, and someone's mentioned it earlier, the pace of change really is accelerating, and I think a really good way of getting your head around this is today is as slow as it's ever going to be. The technology is going to move faster tomorrow and faster still the day after. So you've got to ask yourself the question, if not now, when? Because the pace is just accelerating at almost an unintelligible speed. And there's three things I'd like to try and use my time to talk about today. One is how we embrace that new technology, what it means, share some data with you about how it's affecting current employees and future employees, and perhaps how you can make best use of what's available. Then I want to talk through collaborative working, and Peter mentioned that quite a lot earlier this morning. That's a fundamental part of what Google does, and we can talk through techniques for getting that to work within your physical environment, within your technology, and within your software. And then finally, I want to bring it all together around innovation, because innovation really does sit at the heart of making this work, and we've got a really good example to share with you of how you can bring all these ideas together. So a quick anecdote to kick off that many of you may have seen before. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the Beijing Olympics back in 2008. A lot of enthusiastic fans taking pictures of their heroes with personal cameras and video cameras. Jump forwards just 4 years to 2012, and you see a similar scene in terms of fans, but now they're recording the moment for posterity with their iPads and with their iPhones and smartphones. So 4 small years, massive change in technology. It therefore comes as little surprise that in January of that year, Kodak, the inventors of the camera, went bust. Now, I'm not saying for one moment that it was just those 4 years that took them under, and to be fair, they had recognized the change to digital. In fact, they'd done a lot of new digital innovations in that period and before that period. But what they'd missed was the way in which cameras were going to become integrated into mobile phones, and that completely screwed their business. So the lesson to be learned there is don't have this sort of Kodak moment. Make sure you're anticipating how those situations are going to change. So I want to go right back to early days now and start with some stats on the youngest people that perhaps aren't even in our field of view quite yet because they're not ready to work. But if you look at kids of school age, from our surveys, 42% of school-age children know how to use a tablet. And perhaps what's more telling, for me at least, is that 28, or nearly a third of school kids, not school kids in fact, kids aged 3 to 4, can also use a tablet. Now, I don't know whether you've got really smart kids, but I'm pretty sure my kids couldn't read when they were 3 or 4, but they could use the tablet. And it reminds me of working in my office at home when my then 4-year-old came up and interrupted me, and frankly, I needed an interruption. She said, "Can I help you with your computing, Dad?" I said, "Yes, of course you can." So her fingers covered in yogurt were then smeared across the screen of my PC. And in my anger, I thought, what on earth are you doing? Until I realized that's the only technology she knows. She's used to playing around with iPads. It's touchscreen technology. Why on earth would you need a keyboard or a mouse? Jump forwards to today, and my boss, Larry Page, is telling us that we need to start imagining a world without keyboards and without steering wheels. And if you've been following in the press our recent launch of the driverless cars, you'll see that we're there with the without steering wheels bit. Jump forwards perhaps then to current activity, and another couple of Google stats for you to take away that give some idea to the scale of activity and the way in which talent today is using technology. There are around about 4 billion searches done per year on job and career-related content on Google. And just under 1 billion of those, so a quarter of them, are done on mobile phones. There are 67 million searches on YouTube for video content, again, related to jobs and careers. So the two big takeouts for me on this is, first and foremost, your talent audience is moving to a mobile-orientated way of working, which might sound unfamiliar because actually if you're going to research a business or it's involving your career planning or it's involving your CV, you'd assume that a PC would be the likely weapon of choice. But increasingly, no, it's the mobile phone that they're turning to. And if you're responsible for the content of your HR website, both for internal and external candidates, then you really need to look carefully to see whether or not it works well on all the relevant mobile devices. The second piece on video I think is quite telling. If you look at the very youngest audiences, they're using YouTube to research information more than they're using Google to research information. That's across the board. That's not jobs and careers specific. So again, you're seeing an increased appetite for video content that talks about what your business stands for, what it's like to be an employee, how my career might be developed if I come and work with you, or even for internal candidates that are looking for promotion and development. Video is a great media to tell fantastic stories. The last piece from a technology perspective just really talks to quite how pervasive technology has become. Analysis shows that on average, we spend 60 days of our life per year looking at digital media. So if you add up all the time you spend in a day, multiply it through, on average, we commit 60 days a year to looking at digital media. Even more today when you've been following it all on the fantastic app. And that's really because there's a lot of ways to do it. So if we bring the first three up quite quickly, most of that activity occurs on screens we're already familiar with. Desktop, mobile, and tablet is really where a lot of that information comes from. But it's only going to get more so because there are 6 screens today, and there's probably going to be 7 or 8 screens very soon. The fourth one that some of you may have started to realize is television. Smart TVs, if you've bought a TV recently, it'll be smart, allow you to view internet content on that screen. The Chromecast that you can see on the screen now allows you to literally just swipe information from your mobile phone or from your tablet up to that screen in the corner of the room. Much nicer way to watch video. We've learned already that there's millions of people wanting to watch video, so you can see that that suddenly becomes much more of an environment that you want to view relevant information. The fifth screen is what they call wearables. Now, if there's any geeks in the room like me, you might be sporting a wearable. I don't see anyone wearing Google Glass just yet, but there's lots of these new technologies coming through which won't necessarily have a direct impact on the sort of information you either want to collect or give out to your audiences, but just increase the amount of connectivity we have within our lives. And the final of the 6, if anyone guessed it, is automotive. So both Google and Apple have announced their operating systems for cars. So there's an iOS and an Android that are both going to be available soon in a number of different manufacturers' vehicles. So literally when you get into the car, all the functionality you had on your phone transitions into the interface you've got within your vehicle. And I suppose the main takeaway is, if we're driving it, wearing it, holding it in our hands, sitting at a desk playing with it, we really do have the internet in almost everything that we do, and we need to start thinking about what that means for how we communicate with our audiences. So I think that's probably enough on tech. I wanted to touch on collaboration. This image is from our offices that are literally just a stone's throw up the road in central St Giles. And this is a picture of our cafe. And yes, I am showing off slightly that we do get free food. But the reason for showing it is to talk about the ethos behind why that's the case. Clearly, it's a nice bonus. It's nourishing, it's nurturing to be feeding your staff both breakfast and lunch. It certainly tells on the waistline after you've been there a little while. But the reason I put a circle around the middle is the eagle-eyed amongst you may be able to see that there's a huge queue for the food. Now, you think Google being Google, you'd be able to plan it accordingly so that people can go in an extremely efficient way and that someone's written an algorithm to make that as efficient as possible. They have. They've written one to make it inefficient. So why would they do that? It's a fantastic way to get people talking. So as soon as you force a degree of queuing, you're standing next to someone that you don't necessarily know that well. It's a great networking opportunity. You start chatting about something you're working on. They know someone who's done something similar. Someone sparks an idea that you then take with and run with, and all of a sudden you see fantastic new ideas coming out of the fact that you had to queue for your burger at lunchtime. So a really good way of getting people to collaborate much more closely together. From the same building, this is our lounge area, very much modelled on Laura Ashley. But the point is, we don't expect people to stay stuck at their desks the whole time. And even if you haven't got a lot of space in your working environment, having some variety to be able to go and work in a different space makes a huge difference. It might be that you still want to go and do it on your own, but you're quite happy to sit on a low sofa with a laptop working away on your next presentation. It may be that there's 2 or 3 of you and you want to get together and collaborate, and this space has both formal seating and soft seating, and allows people to work in that particular way. In the inset on the left, you can see one of our video conferencing rooms. And again, for many of you who have international businesses, you just physically can't bring everybody together. Good, supported video conferencing makes a massive difference. And in our systems, you're able to book it very easily. As soon as you walk into the room, you touch the screen that's on the desk. That identifies that you're there, and it just connects and off you go. If you've got colleagues on laptops, on mobiles even, and on tablets, they can also join in at the same time. And it really does foster this spirit of people working together, even if they're geographically dispersed. And then I want to show you a quick video for how we can also start addressing the challenges around software, because software can also encourage collaboration, and I'll let the video speak for itself.
The screenplay on your home computer, that presentation at work, those vacation photos and videos on your phone, the trip itinerary on your tablet, resumes, recipes, videos. With Google Drive, you can now access your files from wherever you are, even the big ones. Whichever program you're using, just drag and drop, and there are all your files ready to be opened by you and shared with anyone you want. Forget files being too big to email. Just share them with Drive, and everyone has the same file automatically that they can edit together from anywhere. Now all your stuff, work or play, is in one place. Easy to find and easy to share. Google Drive. Keep everything, share anything.
So my team at the moment is split between London and Dublin and Hyderabad. We obviously don't get to see each other very often as a result of that. But every week we'll be sharing documentation. We'll have spreadsheets that are open that we can each add and take away information from in real time. You can see who's doing what. I can leave a document that I've been working on my desk in the office and go home, and at night I can look at exactly the same document, exactly how I left it on my tablet. So it just makes life much easier to get that work-life balance and to also distribute that information as elegantly as possible. So then I wanted to finish off just touching on the importance of innovation. And there's a bit of context to this that I want to share with you. At the moment, 39% of the population has internet access today in 2014. Google's prediction is that by 2020, that will have risen to a full 100%, which sounds a pretty crazy ambition in 6 short years. But it makes a fundamental difference to talent, because of course most of that growth is going to come from developing markets. Developing markets are front and foremost for many of the international businesses in the room here today, and therefore that's also where a lot of that talent and knowledge and expertise is going to come from. What's going to drive that growth? Well, firstly, it's going to come from significantly cheaper hardware. Most of you have got a smartphone in your handbags or in your pocket. It's probably worth about 500 quid. Be disappointed to hear that everything on the screen at the moment you can buy for less than £30. So that's a 7-inch tablet for £30, that's a smartphone for £30, and the Raspberry Pi, which is a PC on the bottom right, you can buy for £25. And that's here in the UK, that's not in a different marketplace. And so I can see a future where actually we start to look at some of that tech in the same way we would as a big biro, that if we lost it or it broke or we lent it to someone, it wouldn't be a big deal, we can always get another one. I think increasingly we'll have that attitude to a lot of the tech. And the final 2 reasons why we're going to hit that 100% connectivity come down to innovative ways of getting people online and driving the price point. In terms of the former, a good example of that is an initiative called Project Loon. Project Loon is putting air balloons up into the stratosphere. They're fitted with radio equipment on the bottom of the balloon. That then provides internet access to a large area beneath that balloon that could otherwise, doesn't make sense geographically to physically wire that particular area for internet access. So all of a sudden, these sorts of innovations bring the opportunity for everyone to be online within those 6 short years. The final challenge is making sure that the data price is economical, and for many markets, the cost of data is prohibitive for use. There's an organization called internet.org, which is well funded by a number of large businesses, including Facebook, and that is looking to try and reduce the cost of internet access to 1% of what it is today within just 5 to 10 years. Made someone fall over, they were so shocked by that data. But again, as you can see, if we can reduce that price point that significantly, all of a sudden all bets are off in terms of connectivity. So to try and bring all this together, I thought of an example of a business that's really looked at what technology is available, how best they can use it, how to reach out to the sorts of audiences they're trying to touch based on what we've talked to about video and mobile use, and came up with a fantastic way of doing this. The idea originally was just to make a small internal video that was going to work well for expressing the way in which they brought talent into the business. In the end, it was so successful it went viral. There were over 5 million views of this video have already occurred on YouTube. And the impact from an HR perspective was nearly 300% increase in traffic through to their HR website. Perhaps even more importantly, for Heineken's existing employees, more than 9 out of 10 felt more positive about the business after they'd seen the video. So I'll say no more, let's roll VT.
What's your management style?
Passionate. Passion.
And what's your biggest weakness?
Being stubborn. Stubborn, I think.
Okay, give me one reason why I should hire you.
Because sports is my passion.
I'm really passionate about football.
Really like a football.
When you are looking for a job for an interview,
Either brushed.
You look good, you feel good.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
Eens van mij nou.
Okay, Reese. Okay. And so you liked it when we were walking hand in hand?
It made me feel comfortable, yes.
Oh, interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for your time, I suppose.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
bye.
Russell, very nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Sorry, are you sure?
I'm fine. I'll get a little water in a second.
Okay, you say no?
Stay away, please.
If we're talking about money, how much money do you think you would like to have for the position? Last time this happened was at a disco.
The disco day?
Fire and passion or cold and calculated?
I would say cold and calculated because
Wrong answer.
fire and passion. Other people get infected by my enthusiasm.
You think I'm getting infected right
No.
now?
We need to go. Come, Simon, Mr. Ross,
Okay.
please. Come on, we need to get going.
Missing a hand here. Can you help us, please? Sir, can you help us, please?
There's a fire or something.
We have a gap here. Sir. This one. Hold your weight back. Okay, he's okay. Okay.
So Lucy spoke this morning about HR departments working with marketing departments. That's where the bar's set. So just to summarize, key takeaways are embrace the new technology, don't end up with the wrong kind of Kodak moment. Make sure that you're focusing on mobile and video because that's the sort of interactions that your audience are looking to have. And give some consideration to the next generation that's coming through, is coming into a world of technology that's quite different from that we grew up in. Collaborative working is a really good instigator of innovation, and even if you haven't got the resources that some of the larger businesses have got, there's still different ways you can use your real estate, use your technology and use your software to encourage that collaboration and make it part of your culture. And then finally, if you can bring that all together, then it really does instill innovation. You can tell some fantastic stories like the guys from Heineken. Thanks very much for your time.
So a couple of questions here, okay? So that's probably the best HR advert in the world, isn't it? There was, sorry, I know that was bad. That was bad. I couldn't resist myself. I'm sorry. I'll pay it back later. There is just one question. How can organizations with limited budgets and stretched people resources embrace new innovations such as, I love this, embrace new innovations such as mobile? Now you're going to smile at that. Is mobile a new innovation? If somebody else tells me it's the year of mobile, I shall scream.
Year of mobile is part. In fact, the next stage on mobile, if you're interested, is you can actually start taking them to pieces. So Motorola are running an initiative called Project Ara, and you can physically take bits off your phone and put different bits on. So if you wanted a bigger camera for the weekend because you were going to an event, you could just literally slot it on like Lego pieces. So yeah, the year of the mobile has definitely been and gone, I think, as far as I'm concerned. With limited budgets, I think the challenge is just being smart around what you can do and what you have got. And I think mobile's quite easy to use in simple terms. It's things like, is your form easy to fill in? So if you've got online applications for internal or external candidates, just focus on things like the form and make sure you can physically do it on a mobile instead of sort of having to pinch the screen to try and physically fit the content in. You don't have to go and re-engineer your entire content. Clearly, the more you do, the better it'll work for you. But I think it's focusing on the key touch points where you really need interaction and making sure that those work as well as they can.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much for your entertaining presentation. Thank you.